Slide right up. It's not the one we called up, is it? That'd take a while. And this is how you come down. Alright, I got emailed a bunch of times that I screwed up in that edit yesterday. And I chopped off an email short. So, here is the end of that email. It's the last email read on yesterday's video. May 30th? There you go. Here it is. I found it. And it went. One early summer day, I go out to the road along the river to walk, and someone had taken a saw and cut right through the metal gate and even moved the boulders, the forest sign put across the road to stop cars from going there, and tore down the no motor vehicle sign. I saw their camp from a distance. A lot of garbage there. They were there all summer. I got a real bad vibe from them. So I was in the area one day, and in my mind I told Sasquatch, this is a bad person in that camp. I came back about 2 days later and they were gone. It kind of looked like they left hastily, as they left their tent and most of their stuff. I wouldn't say we are friends with the Saw Bay people, but I think we're on good terms. And that's all for now. Thank you for what you do, and thanks to everyone who shared their stories. It certainly helped me. Just call me Mike in Oregon. Alright, now I don't even remember how the next clip went. Pretty sure I probably addressed this and you, Mike, in yesterday's video. So there you go. There was the end of that one, you guys. Now, what am I doing? I'm going to get a bunch of people hurt. And then I'm leaving. Again, solo. I'm going to go to the coast again and bring my quad and all my hunting stuff. I'm going to put in a serious effort to harvest an old, mature, past prime bear. And then, and I'm also going to catch a bunch of fish for my friends who are in need of healthy food at this time of life. with their diagnosis. And no, a lot of people emailed me thinking it was somebody in my home, in my house. It's not. It is definitely family of mine. And we'll leave it at that. And the suicide was not, but someone very close to my friends who are also having some very bad news. It's all interlinked. Everything's intertwined. Anyway, moving along. The bright light. Gotta be the bright light. Stay positive, right? Everybody has to at all times. So, I'm going to go to the coast, make sure I have enough fish and halibut, salmon, halibut for their family right away, and go visit and offer my support and see what I can do. Now, let's make it about somebody else here, just as important, which is all the people. Now, listen to this. And no, I don't proofread, and I haven't a clue what I'm about to read. Oh, before I forget, so I got more details on what went down in my yard the other night. So I thought, because both Sarah and her son babbling at me at the same time, and I don't show much emotion or concern when it comes to what goes on out there and me personally, because I think probably I was trying to explain it to Sarah yesterday, because she says, you're not really saying too much. I'm like, what do you want me to say? I don't really want to. What I explained to her was, I don't need to, how do you say it? If I'm being baited, I don't need to take the bait. If somebody wants some attention out there and wants to have more of a connection with this home and this family, I'm not encouraging it. All right. If this was what we think it may have been, fine. I know they're here. You guys have seen things thrown at me on my quad just over there. There's been so many sightings near me, it's stupid. Is what it is. I'm living with it. Accept it. Fine. Leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. That's my attitude. So, no chicken's dead. But anyways, more of the details that went down was, which I didn't quite get the first day was, but I will share it all with you guys out of curiosity, right? Her son went out and was on the porch and videotaped what it was, but unfortunately he was with his friends and using Snapchat or something, which deletes the videos. And he had sent that video to his friend because he said he wrote it off as it's just the horse, it's got to be the horse. I went and went to bed. Meanwhile, they didn't tell me this part at first. Ruby, my dog, was pushing herself between his legs and backing away, staring, not just standing there staring. And I'm like, you didn't tell me that the day before. Not that it makes a difference. And the horses are not out. So there you go. And even his friend said when he received the Snapchat video text, said, that's no horse. Of course it's gone, right? Isn't that funny? It is funny, but it isn't funny. It's just odd. Especially here, with the amount of people that say, hey, we got real clear pictures, or that the guy on the highway out of San Francisco or whatever it was, yeah, I got this picture of this thing skylined over top of the vehicle. My sister's got way better pictures. Never email us back. Those pictures never showed up. So-and-so's got a straight face on a trail camera. Send it next time. Right? It's endless. What is it so far? 99.9% of all the people promising to send something, they don't send it. Odd. Or they can't find it, or misplaced, the camera died, or got wiped. Our fish and game friend, ex-law enforcement man, he did come through and he sent that one in the river. I think it was his daughter's boyfriend or something that took the video, but at least there's somebody to send what they promised to send, right? Anyway, not that it matters. Doesn't make a difference. It does not make... I don't give a shit what anybody says. A video or photograph is not going to make a difference today. I think we made that clear with the volley of photos I was sharing on the community page last week. Right? Anyways, that's my update from the backyard. Am I looking... Do I need to go look for tracks? Not really. I'm thinking for myself, it's like, okay, maybe you're in my yard, maybe you're at my home. Are you looking for attention from me? I don't have any for you. You're not going to get it, so carry on. Right? I have a funny feeling the more attention you give, the more attention you get. That's my stance on the topic, from what I've experienced myself and from what I've learned from all of you, right? The patterns. Do I need to be harassed every time I go out in the yard at night or every time I go in the woods? No, not into it. Piss off. All right, you're in my yard once, maybe twice, or maybe when I'm not aware. Fine, I don't care. Leave my shit alone. Do your thing. Do what you have to do. But I'm not looking for a relationship or ongoing experiences. Myself, I'm good. What I'm looking for is truth. I'm looking for every single person here to be validated, have their voice heard, be treated with respect, not judged or spoke to like they're crazy, give them a safe place to speak. That's what I'm about. And to expose truth. I'm about truth. The proof's in. That ship sailed generations ago. The proof of these things going on, these beings being in the forest and the mountains and near bordering our communities, that ship sailed a long time ago. If you're not picking that up yet, there's no hope for you, and this is probably isn't the right channel for your ass. Sorry, sad, frustrating, I know. Oh well. Moving along. A little bit of a babble there, isn't it? Hi Steve, please allow me to introduce myself. I am one who has excluded the propaganda box, which I otherwise call the mind eraser, from my house over 20 years ago. So occasionally I spend some time on YouTube viewing subjects that interest me. I'm 63 years old, retired police sergeant, and Massachusetts resident. I recall the Patterson-Gimlin film back then, but always dismissed it as whatever. However, a few years ago my oldest son Jason had an encounter that caused me to reassess my position. He and his buddy Rob had four-wheeled up a seasonal unpaved road from Blandford to Montgomery up the backside of Tekoa Mountain one winter night. They drove through the snowbank where the town plow had left off, intending to shortcut from a friend's house to the paved roads of Montgomery on the way home. Alright, so just so you guys know, it confuses me sometimes in the States. I have realized in the States, there's a lot of states who have the same county names. Weird, I don't get it. Like there's Shelby County, Tennessee, there's Montgomery. Montgomery is a town, I believe, in Alabama. I know there's a Montgomery in Alabama, so I don't know if this is Alabama or what. Hopefully we're going to find out. Jason was concentrating on his driving up the slippery snow-covered road. Snow-covered. Probably not Alabama. When Rob suddenly exclaimed, "Look, look, what is it?" Jason was busy driving and kept his eyes on the road to avoid an accident, and so did not see it. Rob pointed to where something had just run out of their headlights down a path that crossed the road. So, Jason backed the rear of his Blazer onto the path from where it had come, put it in park, and pointed the front of the truck toward the direction it had run. Rob said about it that it ran like a wolf, but it wasn't a wolf. It was big like a bear, but not a bear, and had long gray hair. Jason activated his off-road lights in addition to the headlights to illuminate the area and to get a look at what Rob had seen. He sat there for several seconds trying to get a glimpse, when suddenly something, another one, hit the truck from behind hard. The strike made their heads whip back and moved the truck forward. That's a holy shit moment. They both instantly turned their heads around, but could see nothing in the inky blackness. Jason discreetly put it in drive and headed back out the way they came. I heard this story when Jason and another friend, Rich, were visiting my house. I walked into the story as Rich was insisting to Jason that it was a Bigfoot he had encountered. Rich had his own experiences that convinced him of these things. Jason is more of a truster of the propaganda machine and was having trouble getting his head around what had happened. So, Rich was trying to set him straight. As for Rich's encounter, he related that he used to drive his quad through the local trails to a nearby watering hole. Both because he liked quadding, plus he couldn't get busted for DWI that way. On one occasion, he got good and drunk before heading home. As he was driving his quad along the trails, the booze really hit him. So he stopped with the quad running and put his head down on his crossed arms resting on the handlebars. After an unknown amount of time, something or someone nudged him on his shoulder as if to wake him up or to see if he was all right. Being the guy he is, he swung one arm back at whatever it was coming in contact and feeling it with his hand, but he otherwise did not lift his head or turn to see. After several seconds, he felt another nudge. This time, wanting to be left alone, he again swung his hand back hard, striking whatever had nudged him. This time, whatever it was, let out an ungodly and inhuman scream/roar that shook him through his whole body. He instantly gained enough self-control to pin the throttle and get on home. He never turned around and so also did not see it, but is convinced of what it was. Rich and his brother had also found footprints one winter in Lithia Springs, with a stride too big to be a man. Armed with my new awareness, I reflected on my own experiences. A couple years ago, my oldest daughter, her boyfriend, and Jason were at the house. They decided to take my thoroughbred Beagle for a nighttime walk on Mount Tom. An hour or so later, they called me by cell phone to tell me they had lost the dog. This was bizarre because the dog, though he loves to run always, remains close to his people. I told them not to come home without the dog. After a while, to my relief, the dog was at my door wanting to be let in. He had strangely left them and run the few miles home. I called, told them the dog was safe. When they got back, I asked them what they were doing that would make the dog act so out of character. They said it was just the usual walk, but there was something they could hear walking parallel to them out of sight in the dark. I have a thirst for knowledge and sought out any and all information on my latest subject of interest. This led to your videos. After viewing several, I decided that you are sincere, unlike other Bigfoot hunters whose purpose seems not to find one. So, here's my analysis and conclusions. On one of your videos, you mentioned that you never read the Bible. You never read the Bible. But in the same video, you mentioned the Nephilim. So you seem somewhat informed for a pagan. I, on the other hand, have read the Bible and seek scriptural confirmation of things I have concerns about. I can tell you that there is scriptural confirmation of human gene tampering that supports the existence of these things. Giants, for example. In Massachusetts, here in Western Mass, we have an excellent researcher who has compellingly documented giants with evidence, which evidence is swallowed up by the government and concealed from us. He has several YouTube's videos on the subject. Bigfoot, as another example of gene tampering, would be human/ape hybrids. The Book of Enoch, though extra-biblical, reveals that one of Noah's sons discovered and began practicing the dark arts, which are still practiced in secret today. I consider it likely that the centaur or minotaur are not mythical creatures like we have been taught, but rather historical examples of the practice of those dark arts. A human is the container of a spirit that, when saved by the gospel, becomes the Holy Spirit. But when the human genes are tampered with, i.e. corrupted, the body is no longer suitable for the Holy Spirit, though still able to contain another spirit, such as from the Nephilim you mentioned. These beings are created for a purpose. Evil government is clearly in league with the forces that create these hybrids. Dogmen are another example. At the apex of these evil forces are spiritual entities, but they work together with those who have sold their souls for profit. A comprehensive study of Scripture would reveal that this earth pre-existed the creation of man, and that Lucifer, who became Satan, had been given rule over it. For this reason, those spiritual entities understand all the natural elements and forces from which comes technology. Our evil government, in exchange for technology, jointly works with those forces in secret. This is how, in 150 years, we have technologically advanced from horseback riding to where we are today, up to and including UFOs, which are of earthly origin, not extraterrestrial. Roosevelt, who was a Khazar, Khazar, is credited with the creation of the National Park System. Many think that's great. However, the National Park System did two significant things. First, it excluded citizens from taking residence on America's prime lands. And second, imposed federal jurisdiction on those areas, setting the stage for the cover-up. Consider that in light of the many persons missing from national parks, as reported by David Plius. Bigfoot is prolific in America's prime lands. One likely center for this evil phenomenon is the secret government base in Dulce, New Mexico. Dulce? However, you know I butcher the shit out of words, right, you guys? Dulce, New Mexico. The government is absolutely never going to admit that the Bible is true, even though the archaeological evidence clearly supports that fact. The Bible is, in fact, a history book. I write this to you so that you may connect the dots in bringing your message to the people. Your desire for the truth and interest in helping others is righteous. The only thing lacking in your life is Jesus, with whom you would be perfect. There is no difference between reality and the Bible. They are one and the same. Keep up the good work. By the way, I also am my own man, and I don't give an F about what others think or say. Gary B., Holyoke, Massachusetts. P.S. I never hunted, but considered a valuable skill that all should know, so as to not be helpless in a crisis. If the means come my way, I'll look you up. All right, Gary, I hope you do, man. Look me up anytime. Anytime. And, yeah, I haven't shared openly, publicly, what my true feelings are on Jesus, the Bible, and many other things, or even what these beings are. As I fill my puzzle, when I feel absolutely 100% confident I may be right with the completed portion of my puzzle, let's say, I'm going to share it with everybody, and then give everybody the opportunity to take from it what they will or leave it. But until I get there, I'll keep sharing everybody's voices, sharing thoughts, and when I finally come to absolute conclusion for me, believe me, you guys will be the first ones to hear about it, and it's not too far away. Now, thank you so much for emailing. I appreciate it, especially when somebody says they used to just shrug this topic off, but then, right? Said many. Now, who's next? My Pennsylvania sighting. Hi, Steve. I was referred to this YouTube channel by a former neighbor of mine. He reached out to me several years ago after my father passed away, and during our chat, he brought up a story that my father told him probably 20 plus years ago about Bigfoot. He asked me if I remember anything about that story, which I did, and told it to him. He said it was a practically identical story to what my father told him so many years ago, and asked for permission to share my story on your channel. I'm not sure if he sent it to you, but it has been digging at me ever since then. The memory of what I saw, and I just want to get it out. You're at the right place. This happened when I was about seven or so, back in '79. My family was visiting my grandparents in Carmichael's, Pennsylvania for the weekend. One of my uncles is having a house built on a piece of land about a quarter mile down the road from my grandparents' house. My uncle was over at my other uncle's house a few miles away. My father wanted to go see his property and construction progress, so we walked down the road to see it for ourselves. We had a work van parked in the front part of the property where he kept all his tools and some other equipment. His dog, a big German Shepherd that loved to bark and make his presence known to everyone, was chained to his van as a deterrent to anyone that might try to steal his tools. As we approached my uncle's property, we noticed that his dog wasn't barking or growling or anything. His dog had crawled underneath the van and was whining like it was scared. I remember my father and I thought this was very odd, but decided to walk around back where the new house was being built. About 50 to 60 feet beyond his work van, where his work van was parked, was a hill that was dug out for the foundation of the new house. There was also a large tree there, and that is where we saw it. My father saw it first and told me to stop. It was large, it was wide, and it was black. The creature must have heard us and was leaning against the tree, just staring at us. We temporarily froze. It slowly moved, so it was partially behind the tree and its head was visible from the other side. Kinda like he was playing peekaboo. I remember my father leaning to the side to get a better view. Then this creature stepped out from behind the tree in full view. That was to the point where my father threw me over his shoulder and did a full-on sprint back to my grandparents' house a quarter mile away. It didn't appear to be aggressive, but I guess my father didn't want to take any chances. Do you think? When we got to their house, my father yelled for everyone to get in the back room and stay put. Then he called his other brother that lived on the other side of town and told him to bring his shotguns. Both his brothers showed up, and they all went back down the road to investigate. Hence the saying, there's nothing more dangerous than a scared human being. Right? That's how we react. They didn't find anything. The dog had crawled back out from underneath the van, and they didn't find anything except for broken sticks at the edge of the property line near the woods. My uncles gave me and my dad a bunch of shit over this whole story and said we had just seen a black bear. Well, that was no black bear. Being that this event happened so long ago, I can't accurately say how tall the creature was. It was 50 to 60 feet away, but it was larger than any person I've ever seen. Maybe 7 or 8 feet tall. What has really stuck with me over these years was just how wide the creature was. It was massive, probably twice the width of a large man. It was pretty much spot on to that Bigfoot seen in the Patterson-Gimlin film. A few days later, one of my uncles had called my father. When he went back to work a couple of days later, he said one of his co-workers actually approached him and said, quote, "You're not going to believe what I think I saw over the weekend when I was out fishing," end quote. Apparently there were numerous sightings over the weekend from several miles away, and the local newspaper even did an article about it. My mother has since passed away, but I still travel up to their house to check on the place and to handle estate and legal issues. I've often wondered if the local libraries in that area might have copies of old newspaper articles from back then. It would be interesting to see what people said. As a side story, my full-time job is with the federal government in the D.C. area. Don't hold it against me. It's not easy. I just do it type work, which is some of the most boring work you can imagine. This position requires me to have a top-secret clearance with a polygraph. During one of my 5-year re-investigations, you have to go through the entire clearance process every 5 years, I was getting ready to do a polygraph exam. I asked the examiner if he could ask me if I've ever seen Bigfoot as a part of the collaboration pre-test. He chuckled but agreed. This is part of the polygraph where they ask you questions that will be used to compare with other questions during the exam. Is your name XXX? Is your skin blue? And so on. Known answers to see how your body reacts to questions. Well, after the exam, the examiner said they might have to call me back for another test. When I asked why, he said, "Because you're either a pathological liar and can beat the polygraph, or you really have seen a Bigfoot. According to the polygraph, you're telling the truth." I didn't have to retake the polygraph, so I guess the powers that be accepted my results. Well, that is my story. Thank you for taking the time to read and share, William. Alright, man, thank you for taking the time to type that out and send it. That's a lot of time. And it's funny that we have made it into DC. Polygraph, huh? DC, I've been there. Years ago, friend of mine, football player. Met through Gadding. Took me there and gave me the big tour, and we went around the White House. There's a parking area behind the White House. It's funny, when I saw the White House, I didn't realize that it was smack dab right in the middle of a big city. Because when you see it on the news, all you see is the White House and trees. It almost makes it look like it's surrounded in forest, but it's not. I remember we went around that back parking lot. You can go behind the White House and go up around, and we stopped for 1 second, and boom, 2 guys or 3 guys with the things on their ears and suits came running over. "Keep moving!" Right? Once saw the Vietnam War Memorial. That Lincoln, the statue of Lincoln, the great big one. Got a bunch of pictures from that. I'm seeing that place, but I'll tell you what. While I was there, you can't help but have the weird feeling of of you are in one of the biggest bullseyes on the planet for something bad to happen. And that is what I honestly felt with the whole time I was there. It's like, I didn't feel that comfortable being in DC because I felt it was a potential bullseye for something major to go down. But anyway, it's not about me here. What am I doing? Make sure you bring this topic up with your coworkers or whoever else you got and get more information going. And if you're wondering about that property, you need to speak to the local people around there. That's where you're going to get the goods, from the people around that area. And this is titled, A Good Scream from Oregon. Number 1 of 9? Uh-oh. What do we got here? To the circle of no return. Hello everyone, I've been watching the channel for almost 4 years now and decided it's time to relay some of my stories and knowledge. I've been here that long, for real? Can't be. I've learned a great deal from this channel and more from venturing into the unknown. I'm 33 now and have possibly had 9 experiences with the forest people, which I do not entertain lightly. What truly fascinates me is the assuredly multifaceted nature of these powerful beings. My first experience was a Mindspeak event while playing in the snowy clear-cut timber hills as an 11-year-old, when I saw tracks larger than those of a man, and a being entered my mind to alert me of his presence in the adjacent gully. Later, while riding back in the truck with my buddies and one of their dads, I asked, "Did anyone see someone else on the hill?" I felt like someone was there and even saw bare footprints. I remember feeling very alarmed, and they all responded that, "No, we didn't see anyone else on the mountain today." This memory was repressed until several years ago. My second story occurs in the Cascade Mountains on a sunny day, August 2014. This is my friend Alec, who is also a tracker and exceptional woodsman. We had been camping together for a couple of days, and I felt compelled to stop at an old wagon trail and explore a particular section of woods. My friend embarrassingly admitted that his legs were chafing and he was unable to accompany me on the hike. So we exchanged radios and I told him I'd be back before sundown. After less than 2 miles, the old growth encumbered me. Excited that I might spot some fantastic wildlife, I began stalking. It's funny because that unfortunately was my true intention, as to stumble across some wildlife, and I did. While fox walking, I attempt to remove sound from my footfalls. Suddenly, the lowest bough of an ancient Douglas fir exploded 30 yards in front and just off to the left side of the trail. I froze, clutched my knife. Nothing more, but the woods were silent. Whatever it was, it shook this entire branch violently, as either a quick escape or a clear warning. I calmed myself down and walked wide-eyed towards the tree to realize the stout branch was out of my reach, more than 9 feet off the ground. Elk? Cougar? What happened next, I will never forget. I continued down the trail less than 200 more yards in a very slow and deliberate attempt to calm myself down and overcome my fear. And then I heard it, somewhere, up the slope of Golden Sword Fern Basket in the afternoon light. The sound of death rang through the trees to me. It sounded like a grown woman being murdered. That was my first thought, one which I have heard repeated across this channel, but swear against the cognitive bias. The sound echoed through my soul and literally paralyzed me for the next 10 to 15 seconds. If the first half of the scream was agony, the tone of the second half sounded like rage. It was one long, excruciating sound which I will never forget. Taking my first breath in a new world where I'm not much more than a leaf in the wind, I turned tail and retreated 2 miles back the way I came in. There's not much else left of that story other than it being replayed over and over in my head, trying to rationalize that it was indeed a cougar, but knowing deep down that the scream was partly but more than human. Okay, well, I don't get into much knowledge there. But thankfully I'm still alive and have learned how to manage my experiences with the forest people since then. I've got some happier stories for the next time. And until then, everyone, take good care in your work and upkeep. Even if you don't read this email, thanks again for everything, Steve, Cal in Oregon. P.S. I will send in the stories of Sasquatch, me and the kids at a later time. All right. There you go. Kyle, appreciate you, man. I wonder when, I got a funny feeling I'm going to, well, I don't know if I am or not. I don't know. I wonder why I haven't experienced the blood-curdling scream yet. I wonder why. I haven't had anything growl at me. I haven't had anything scream at me. Well, one time, actually, Garibaldi Park. I was on the very edge of Garibaldi Park, and it was first light in the morning. I'd already done a huge hike right up to basically the border of it, hunting. And I was on a rock, on a finger, and another big, the mountain ridge went like this, looking downhill. I was on this hip, looking down, way down to the valley bottom. It's all big, mature fir and cedar, never been logged. And then a big scoop indent to a creek back in there, and then back out to another point out there and slopes of timber, and pointing to where that sound came from would have been 1,000 yards, 800 yards. And I heard a very loud yell come out of that timber. A yell, and it was right now. Unzip my pants and I'm taking a pee. And then a yell came out of that timber on the adjacent finger, 800 meters away. First light in the morning. And I not a doubt in my mind what that was, but it wasn't alarming, it wasn't threatening, it didn't sound like a woman being murdered, and there's no growling or anything, and nothing else happened that day. But I had found a footprint, one single print, on this side of me. From there, another half a mile that way, earlier before, I found a print there, and the lights that I videotaped and shared with you guys on the top of that mountain, those lights were basically directly above the timber where I heard that yell come from. There you go. I don't know where I am going this evening till dark by myself. I had a native friend from the Pachina community told me that him and his friend were hunting deer there, and they had rocks thrown at their feet, and looked up and seen one standing on the timber edge. And that's where I'm going tonight. And I haven't spent too much time around there personally myself, so whoever may be living there might not be too familiar with me yet. I don't know. Maybe they'll let me have it. Maybe. I don't know. But I don't want it to happen. I don't think anybody wants to hear that blood-curdling, murdering scream in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. I guess there probably is people that maybe do want to. Who knows? Fort Pierce, Florida. Craft, then the hairy one, is the title of this email. My wife's story from 1975. In 1975, my wife is on her way home with her 2-year-old in the car. Seen lights in the distance. Thought it was a football game going on at a school. As they got closer, they saw that wasn't where the school was. The lights were as big as a football field. The wasn't coming from the object, it was around it. Okay, so probably meant the lights weren't coming from the object, it was around it as it moved. Few typos, no biggie. The faster they got, the faster it got followed. For 20 plus miles, and was getting closer by the mile to the car. It looked like a shiny black glow. She had to turn left to go home. It turned left and followed for a few miles, and then she turned again, and it went straight into the trees at 4 feet from the ground. The trees were 12 to 20 feet because it was an orange orchard. It just went through them without a problem. Last she saw it. The car was going over 100 miles per hour plus at times. It stayed there. The oval shape looked black, but shiny light was around it, not from it. The size of a football field. Damn. The next morning, she was in her kitchen, which was immobile, set 3 feet off the ground. Put the kitchen window around 10 feet, old-style windows. She seen movement in the orchard. She looked out and seen something moving just at the level of the tops of the trees. Watched a few seconds, and it stepped out at the end of the orchard. The second she seen what it was, it stopped and turned its shoulders and looked right at her in the mobile home through the windows. It was black, tall as most of the trees, and had a human-like face, 8 to 10 feet tall with long arms, hair all over. She stayed there just a few seconds, then just walked back in the other side of the orchard across the road. Oh, sorry. Face, 8 to 10 feet tall with long arms, hair all over. Stayed there just a few seconds, then just walked back in the other side of the orchard across the road. She got her son and went to see the Seminole elder, and told her what she saw. She called it something and didn't remember what it was. And all the Seminoles all went home. My wife come back to North Carolina the very next day. The hell with Florida, she said. Thanks, Steve. Sorry, I'm a slow hit and miss typer. God bless Dale and Sandy Johnson, North Carolina. We don't care who knows or believes. And here's where the kids need to be in life. Yes, they do. It's a great photo of somebody's very young son sitting on a freshly harvested deer. Perfect photo. And you can't blame her for wanting to leave Florida after seeing that outside the kitchen frickin' window, right? Thanks for sharing that, man. You know, the patterns, you guys, there's little patterns, there's big patterns. And one that can be noted. Sounds like it's raining out there. Can't be. I can't see it, but it sure sounds like it. But anyway, when people say that it has to turn its shoulders to look, right? Who thinks up that small detail consistently around the planet if you're bullshitting? Do you know what I mean? No, bears don't do that. Bears don't do that. What else looks big and black? Moose. Moose don't do that either. They swing their heads. They got a neck and a head, no problem. But there's only one being that we are aware of that has to go like this to look to the side. Right? It's a pattern. There's a pattern in detail that's been mentioned thousands of frickin' times, right? Can't deny it. Who? You got a picture. Who's going to make that up? Who makes up that one, right? And adds it in. It had to swing its shoulders to look at me. Yeah, I just thought I'd pull that one out of my ass and add it into my bullshit story that I made up and sent in to the YouTube dude. Said nobody ever. Scream, Mumbling Hoot is the title of this email. Hello, Steve. Location was a couple hours south of Vernon/Lumbee. Familiar with the area. Shot a big mule deer with my bow just south of Lumbee. 'Twas late August 2022, remote mountain lake, and it was our third night there when it happened. The 5 of us, 4 men, 1 gal, longtime friends of 30 plus years, hunting, fishing, camping together was our passion. We decided to go to the special spot that none of us had been to for about 20 plus years. Beautiful weather, hot, and fishing was great. Like I said, it was uneventful until the 3rd night. It was about 11 p.m. We're all sitting around a small fire having beers, rums, and humorous conversation as usual. Old kerosene lantern at half throttle was the only background sound. When there came a scream, like a teenage girl in distress, followed by a low mumble, then low hoot. It only lasted about 3 to 5 seconds in total, but seemed to come from about 100 feet in the bush. It wasn't body vibrating loud like some of the stories sent in, but I don't think I could scream that loud, even if you were cutting off my left nut. It was pitch black. Couldn't see 20 feet from around the fire. The conversation/storytelling stopped immediately. We all sat in silence for probably 15 to 20 seconds. Listening, looking around at the bush and at each other. What the F was that? Dead quiet, no rustling on the forest floor, no sound of movement, nothing. We waited, nothing. It was all over in seconds/minutes. None of us had ever heard anything like it. We're all seasoned outdoor. One farmer, bracket, gal dash fern. Oh, sorry, screwed up there. Names, gal. One farmer, gal, name's Fern. One mountain/horseback hand, Trevor. One native, Norm, Alan, and myself. We are all in our early 60s. We always gone to the most remote spots to fish/hunt/camp. As far from city as is possible, lol. We were camped there for another 4 to 5 days, I think, and nothing else happened. Lucky. Strange. Was we all kept saying to each other with chuckles and head shakes. I know I can mention my friends' names without even asking. They wouldn't give a shit, just like myself. Bit of a side story. I was in Thunder Bay at my sister's last summer also. On back deck in the morning having coffee when I seen an albino hummingbird. It was taking his third sip when the bully Rufus chased it off. Told my sis. She just said, "Really?" A few minutes later she comes out and shows me on her phone. She Googled and sure enough they are rare but do exist. Just like all you out there, I know what I say. I know what I say, I know what I saw. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I love my sister, she knows I never bullshit. I'll be sporting a How to Hunt hat this summer, as well as 2 of my friends in Fort St. John that I've sent hats to. Kind regards to you, family and critters. Tight lines, Rob Atwood, aka Uncle Rob. Uncle Rob, appreciate you, man. Make sure you send this video to your friends over there. And by the sounds of all of their backgrounds, I'm guessing that they are going to frequent crowds of people that probably have a higher than average chance of seeing something like what we've been describing. And I'll bet you if you ask around your community, I don't know where you live now, but you just said where you were, South Lumbee, Vernon. If you start asking around with a straight look in your face, you know the results are going to be. You're going to get a lot of stories coming back at you, right? I think it is raining out there. Holy cow, showering. Unbelievable. Water is falling from the sky. It's a first in a while. It's like I hamper my plans, I'm still going. Alright. Let's keep it going. Shared account of a friend in West Virginia. Steve, I'll get right to it and save everyone time, lol. We all like to hear more of the accounts and less of all the rest, I suppose. Getting more puzzle pieces then. What follows is a report from a friend I've had in West Virginia for a lot of years through Facebook. He once told me that he's got Native American Indian blood, which makes sense given one of his statements he makes in his report to me of his experience with Bigfoot around 2015/16. I don't know which tribe. I make no apologies for the way he speaks, but to me, when someone gives you their experiences, it matters how they convey them without an editor writing it up. So please, to please the palate of most people. Agreed. I find such readings of accounts to be devoid of the person's feelings or emotions they experienced when this happened to them. Hats off to you, Steve, to break the mold and read them as they come to you, even if you have to wade through no punctuation to rough writing styles which our teachers might frown upon. Even the teachers at times have an appreciation for what's real as opposed to what's cleaned up for the masses. I just talked with my friend Willie in Ravenswood, West Virginia, to ask if there's any news on the Bigfoot over there, since I don't really hear about any from down there. You'll note that I wanted to keep his style of communicating since it's his experience, and I want to help him communicate as fully as he wants to. How these things made him feel personally. Sharing those key things seems to be what helps us relax and heal. So, I fixed punctuation, added words that his way of talking, hillbilly, same as mine, isn't so easily understood by those not from our areas of the Appalachian foothills and mountains. There's a certain lingo and nuance to the speaking which isn't easily caught by the listeners unless they happen to be from near that other person's place of being raised or in it themselves. I fell into a conversation with a realtor from Logan, Ohio, who must have gone up near Athens County, Ohio, which is where I picked up my accent and use of what I call verbal shorthand. Both of us laughed our butts off that this was so easy and quick. My husband, who grew up in Ross County, his head was spinning trying to keep up and understand. We were done. Around 20 minutes later, he blurted out, "What the hell was that?" We cracked up again as I said, "Verbal hillbilly shorthand." I've tried talking with people that speak that, and it is confusing. Every 10 minutes, every 5 seconds, they're going, "Huh? What?" You know, it sounded like to me. Anyway, sorry. That was in West Virginia, too. Sorry. We cracked up again, and I said, "Verbal hillbilly shorthand." As a former undercover cop, this floored him and also scared him that he hadn't known about this before. He said it was like we were speaking a different language he'd never heard before. I think the Irish and the Scots were somehow key to creating that. Let me add that a male Bigfoot one night began speaking to me in this very gravelly tone of oral speaking which was much like that verbal shorthand. His inflections were of Spanish and French. One was more like British English, more than the hillbilly style. One was my tribe's language, which I didn't know yet, nor would know until decades in the future. This one had learned all those languages like pidgin or broken from some time in the long ago past, as the phrases he used were from a past era more than the modern one. Having a better than video memory has its advantages in my case. First off, I talked to him about the glowing birds we'd heard about in Ohio, which were being seen in West Virginia. I thought this might be some fringe science on the loose in the Yosemite video you aired the other day. Here's what he had to say about that in West Virginia. I will tie in a report from another location regarding a Sasquatch experience Willie and a friend had later. I think it bears noting that every place we've seen these Sasquatch, there have been a whole bunch of other weird things which run the gamut, and they're all in the direct vicinity of these private research labs, which do black projects for the government. The government aren't allowed to do these things by law, and private labs can. We who've lived around them know the government isn't keeping an eye on what they're doing in those places for the most part, if at all. There's the reason they're test subjects, such as these glowing birds. The elm beetle, snakehead fish, and other things just seem to get loose. For my part, in southeastern central Ohio, the proof was right there in our valley, where there was a 5-foot upright walking chimp and a huge black orangutan who menaced my brothers and the nearby sheep farmer regularly. Why were the Bigfoot all over that same area? The nearby church camp, a Girl Scout camp, a boys' and industrial school for felons, etc. That research facility was at the center of it all. My friend Willie said about those glowing birds, quote, "Yeah, I've talked to the guys at Guthrie Center and they were supposed to be destroyed, but they accidentally got turned loose around that time. They were all over the farm. They glowed in the dark. They were finches. They did a few experiments without permission. That was in the early 90s. They thrived and they were all neon. Red, orange, green, blue, and yellow. The full moon made them glow. Their offspring do too. They died out and mixed with the locals. It's hard to see them now. They were in Sissonville and Pocatalico. Around the 90s, they looked like a night show. Quote, experiments started in the 1940s at the bunkers in Point Pleasant. Then they moved everything to Guthrie when they built it. Around the last 20 years, most of the guys moved to the center of New York. Guthrie moved from Point Pleasant because of the Mothman and all the reporters. They tore up the old munitions plant because of trespassers. The scientist moved in next to the old tuberculosis houses on Radar Hill in Guthrie, West Virginia, at the Guthrie Center. He talks about a scientist named Dao, D-A-O. living on a mountaintop next to that center whom he knew personally. He says, quote, "Those scientists officially worked on testing milk products, livestock, insects, and DNR samples officially. But they even had cultures of the Black Plague on site. But for several years they had every disease, current and past, but those were mostly destroyed and the rest moved to New York. That man should have been in big shit. There's so much stuff the Guthrie Center didn't tell the public or the feds. They didn't have any real oversight other than the budget and the list of rules." Willie was at the Point Pleasant ammunition bunkers with friends of his when this took place in or around late December or January 2015-2016. The wooded area was about a mile from the bunkers where the experience took place. He was 33 years old, and his friends were about the same age, give or take. It was the night of the Point Pleasant Mothman Festival. They have a festival for the Mothman? This thing was approximately 15 feet up that tree. Now to Willie's experience was something else. Quote, "I knew something else was left there that moved like a bear into a tree, but was larger, much, much larger, and it can run across the treetops faster than a gorilla or a monkey. We got a glimpse of it running through the treetops while breaking 3-inch limbs as it was doing this," end quote. Quote, "But that was in the middle of the night. We thought it would be cool to Mothman hunt, but instead of being in the bunker at Point Pleasant like everyone else, we went into the deeper woods. We were used to the land, which is like a maze, so we went deeper into the woods," he explained, end quote. He explained later that the bunkers were situated around a loop road and the woods were at the center of it. Quote, "Myself and a friend were doing this while trying to meet up with the group," end quote. Quote, this thing couldn't fly, but we're talking about big cat reflexes, but its size, it couldn't weigh less than 800 pounds, but it's lean. I don't know what it is. I couldn't describe it other than I thought it was a black orangutan at first, end quote. Quote, "That would have been 2015, 2016, I don't know, but the same night the Discovery Channel was there. I remember we got interviewed because it was a documentary on Mothman, but we never seen our interview. After those guys left, that's when we went in the woods. We played a game my grandpa taught me. When it's pitch black, you sneak up on someone in the dark to scare them, then run away before they tagged you. I was a games kid in the tribe, played for years. The rest of their group didn't know they were playing this with them." He goes on to say, "This was definitely running through the treetops and smelled like buffalo piss. I think they probably go very quietly mostly then. They can fly when they feel threatened, and we probably scared it. Fly as in go fast, not fly. Oh yeah, and some people, when I told them about Point Pleasant, they said, 'Oh, it was a bear, it had to be.' He said, 'No, I hunt. I field dressed every animal in this state for food. That was no bear for sure.' Oh yeah, one more thing about that night. When we got closer to it, there were no crickets. They were so loud, it made us go deaf. We couldn't hear them at all during the encounter, but they were everywhere, very loud, everywhere else. The air got heavy and our ears popped like pressure in the mountains, but we weren't on a mountain or a hill, we were just in the woods. Right before we seen it, we both felt like something bad, like not fight or flight, but it just felt wrong, like we shouldn't be there, it's not safe. That night we had flashlights, but didn't use them. I can see in the dark really well. Fight or flight is close to the feeling, but what I want to describe was more like best describes it, as evil. We talked about everything, but only myself and a girl I was with seeing that. We talked about everything, but only myself and a girl I was with seen that thing. They have not talked about it since, mainly because they don't speak anymore, but not because of that. Yeah, I was in the woods. The bunkers are like a circle in the middle of the fields and woods, and we were in the middle, which is about a mile from the bunkers. He stated the woods are being about a mile from the bunkers. Next he adds, there was a lack of sound around that black orangutan. I don't believe he got a look at his face, but his face and was using the word orangutan to describe its body features he was seeing. There was long, black, thick hair all over it. There aren't supposed to be black orangutans in Ohio or West Virginia, but we've seen them near our home in Ohio very often when we lived down there. When we saw them in the early 70s, they were not supposed to have been discovered. Only a couple of years after, 2 were photographed by a professional photographer at Clear Creek Metro Park in southeastern central Ohio, and a couple of years passed by. The international news reported they made this new discovery of black ones. Our local news evidently forgot about us seeing them in the 70s and then again in 2010, 2012. Not a peep came from the media in the state about that. But that park has a well-known research lab situated in it who does experimentation on apes and primates, and they've been at that for at least since 1963, to my personal first-hand knowledge. We need some pictures of these facilities to go with these emails. I think that would be really great. It sounds like it should be obtainable, right? Willie wanted to add something disturbing to this report he gave me of other strange things in the area, which, if you're looking at the feature of glowing eyes, this might be the cause of those, as well as being Sasquatch. This one is quite disturbing, and one which not a lot of people have discussed so far, and for the same reasons, they've been reluctant to speak about their Sasquatch experiences as well. So, I include this to show that there's more than just the Sasquatch in the same areas, but that they're connected to these other bizarre things as well. We noted that in our own areas of Ohio, but in West Virginia, I hope more people will write in to tell people what is in their state. They're often very maligned in West Virginia for their accounts, for their accents and poverty, but they're proud of their hard work ethic, and there are many who just never had the advantage to leave the hollers to become citified, as they put it. I find they stick to their faith in God because many times they have no other hope but God. They know He's real and that He still does miracles, or they wouldn't have stood by Him. Quote, if you really want to find something freaky, the woods in the coal country around Sharon and Cabin Creek, Eskdale, deep in the woods on abandoned coal mines. I heard lots of rumors of things I can only describe as a skinwalker / rakes in the caves. Rumor has it they took out a bunch of people during the Civil War, and it was covered up. They say people think there's several of these things, but locals don't care, and people's dogs have been killed by it. A take on that is that something the locals aren't familiar with is being blamed for people's dogs being killed by whatever it is. Something spoken of as spiritual from a great tragedy or injustice is something many don't give credence to. Some do and some don't. But the marks on the bodies of the dead dogs would tell the locals this wasn't done by bears, black panthers, lynx, bobcat, at least, or feral dogs they've been around all their lives. They're obviously well equipped to speak this more than any lying academics or media. One day we may be going to the people of Appalachia to learn how to survive when this country run by such evil people decides to cause us to freeze and starve to death for their own greed. Same with the Native American Indians who just so happen to populate these mountainous regions today. They're survivors with little to no need for this modern world. Thank you, Steve, for all you do for all of us. I'm quite impressed by your latest videos in which you share how these Sasquatch have made you feel and how you're working through the effects even today. It's hard work sometimes dredging up what's so deeply buried in our minds from these beings. I love the woods, force myself to go back in them, but then wham! I get in the middle of a big reveal of 2 black orangutans in a park / vast woods at a time when they were not yet discovered in Africa. I don't need that kind of drama from the one off to the side mind speaking to me like he was luring a cat to him to eat it. Once I've worked through my panic disorder more, you bet I'll be back in the woods again, and this time I'll be armed with God's Spirit, if only to see how well I am at using it now. How could I not know I had this tool? I was scared badly, and all I could do was walk away slowly as to not be chased down and hurt. I didn't know the power I had. If you want the recipe of what I did and a ditty another friend and I learned at church, which the local cops said was legal, and they wished other good people had it to use, as it would make their lives a whole lot easier. You've expressed to add all the details in these emails, and it's already very long as it is. You've also expressed not to send you things which aren't connected to the subject of your channel. So, I feel I can't put all that I need to for spiritual warfare. I've used, and it worked in a separate email, other than to title it as being against Sasquatch or to prove if one is evil or not. God's Spirit is designed to be used both ways. There are offensive and defensive weapons of God's Spirit. Zechariah 4:6, KJV. Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, said the Lord of hosts. I notice some of the comments don't like those who email you or our accounts for being preachy. You're talking about God, whom they sometimes say is a fairy tale. Although they say this, we who talk about it feel we've offended them and might be offending you as well, though you talk about God at times. But you also talk about spiritualist things as well, since you stated to one emailer and us not to send you things that don't apply to Sasquatch, such as the one guy's reports of shadow people. I did attach them directly to Sasquatch from an incident which happened at our church one day, and which the church took very serious, since it was United Pentecostal who believes in such things. A past experience with young Sasquatches in our yard one day, I linked them back to the one in the church when I was an adult. They looked the same light gray, see-through, and could see footballs in the one of big feet in our grass. Perhaps that's why the email with the shadow people wrote to him, but he failed to relate a Sasquatch connection. I wrote you myself about shadows of them in houses with the same characteristics as Sasquatch reported by many people over the years. I hope you read this on video, thereby get more reports from West Virginia. I'd love to see what's going on over there, and you've just got to figure they are being seen over there too. Thanks, Steve, and thanks for doing what you're doing. It is extremely valuable to all of us, and I for one am being set free from decades of this panic in my mind and the blackness around me at times. Shadow, if you will, but I can make it out. Now I know how to get rid of that and keep it out. Patty Rowe again. All right, and there you go. There you go. Yeah, it's not, I should say it's tough, but I mean, it can be awkward at times. Even awkward's even the right word to use, but I mean, how do we start out here, right? We started off with all of you hounding the shit out of me to see if I knew anything about about Bigfoot, and I've known a lot for a long time. And then finally, I guess I just had enough watching the shit show and those so-called big names leading everybody in circles, right? Lying. That's why I came forward, and I came forward as well to offer up. I think I just said out of the blue, hey, you don't want to talk about it, you want to get it out, I'll read your story, share it with me, I'll do it. That's how this started. And then we received tens of thousands of people looking to be heard. And I realized this is frickin' important, and the dark people aren't going to win anymore. And I saw this as a great avenue to fight back and win and kick those sons of bitches to the curb. And that's what's happened. That's where it came from. So now we're getting deeper into many people's truths. And I can't dictate to people what to or what not to write to me about. I can't. I won't. But I would hopefully suggest that you email us help. Number one, help yourself. Number two, something that helps everybody else. Is hopefully two of my more important requests to be emailed here. And then I mean, if it all leads, everything does lead to the same place, I think. Obviously, I mean, we're all intertwined. Everything's intertwined, but If this is going to be a solid, direct path, bam, to that destination right there, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's the way it's going, that's the way it is. And that might be God, send it in. Send it in. I cannot dictate what the truth's going to be. I cannot steer what the truth's going to be, unlike what the previous so-called big names have been doing to all of you the whole time. They have been trying to steer this subject. And it's been very disgusting to watch and witness it. And I witnessed this and knew this way before I came out talking about this to all you guys. It was just an embarrassing bad car accident that you watch at a time and hit the button and make it disappear. But meanwhile, they were still imposing damage on all of you. But anyways, I'm babbling. What I'm saying is, if it is in relation to helping people and getting the answers, spreading the absolute truth, then we need it shared here. Okay? But if it is somebody needing everybody to believe what they believe, we don't need to hear from those people. Right? We don't. That's what's screwed up society to begin with. People forcing people to jump on the bandwagon at all costs. And if you don't, I'm going to tear you down and destroy you. That is what the past so-called big names have done to numerous innocent people, particularly ladies. They've done it to a lot of ladies, including that so-called popular doctor who loves to talk about mid-tarsal breaks, played active roles in intentionally destroying the careers of innocent women. Even I've heard a rumor of, we were looking to get validation shortly, of physically intimidating a woman to shut up when it came to this topic, and the truth's with it. Yeah, there you go. And there's a lot of people working right now behind the scenes to expose a lot of dirty, filthy shit those people I'm referring to have done. Maybe some of you people don't want to hear it. Leave the channel. This is a place for truth and justice, hopefully. And if we can expose some bad players who had a big impact on a lot of you, I'm all in. I am all in. And I have already stated and shared with some people, I'm all in. This is all factual. I'm all in. And that is going down. I know I'm probably not making sense now, am I? Anyway, I gotta go. I'm babbling. In the end, what I'm saying is, if it can help the people, and if it is all 100% factually going to a source, share it. Share it. Share my story at howtohunt.com.
Okay, we'll try right behind the 50-yard target to the right of the camera.